Welcome back to another episode of Discovering Your Mission with Dr. Mordecai. Today, we're diving deep into the power of hope with none other than Kathryn Goetzke, entrepreneur, mental health advocate, and chief hope officer of the Shine Hope Company. Kathryn has dedicated her life to transforming lives through hope education, helping individuals and communities shift from hopelessness to empowerment. Creator of Hopeful Minds and Hopeful Cities, and an author who is reshaping how we view mental wellness and resilience. In this conversation, we discuss her personal journey with hope, the science behind it, and how we can all cultivate it in our daily lives. Get ready for an inspiring episode filled with actionable strategies that can help you achieve hope today. Greetings, everyone. Once again, it's Dr. Mordecai here with Kathryn Goetzke. She is doing amazing work. She is the founder of the Shine Company. I love her title, Chief Hope Officer. Such a cool title. Thank you so much for making time for me on today, Kathryn.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. It's great to be here.
So I got to tell the audience, so I had a chance to meet Kathryn this past June. We were at a conference downtown and had an opportunity to learn about your movement. There's a book that she has written called The Biggest Little Book About Hope. We'll be sure to have information on how you can purchase that book and more information on Kathryn. But Kathryn, you're doing amazing work spreading this message of hope. Tell us about your journey. I mean, I'm just curious to know what brought you to this point to be a Chief Hope Officer.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me again, and thanks to all the listeners for listening in. I started in business. I was an entrepreneur. I had a company, started a company 20 years ago, and I started a nonprofit at that same time, and was doing work in the global mental health space. To back up a little bit, I lost my dad to suicide when I was 18 years old. I had my own attempt in my 20s, struggled a lot, and but again, got treatment and support and set out on this mission with my company about 10 years ago with a nonprofit. I was in a suicide prevention talk, and they were talking about 800 numbers and restricting access to means from 4 primary methods of suicide prevention. And I knew really that wasn't going to save me. And so I started doing literature reviews, and across all the studies, hopelessness is the single consistent predictor of suicide. And I'm on a mission to end suicide. I think we can and we will, yet we need to ensure that everyone knows what hopelessness is and how to get to hope. And they were measuring hope at the time, but they weren't teaching you how to hope. So I set out on this journey. I created an evidence-based program for young kids, initially called Hopeful Minds. I created a college course. We just published research on hopeful mindsets on the college campus. I now have a company, the Shine Hope Company, and the goal is to ensure all know that hope is measurable. You can get your hope score, and you can actually learn how to improve your hope. So build it like a muscle. And my book is about sharing my journey, the story of that full journey and what led me to really work to create a global movement around hope.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It's as an educator, and you are an educator yourself, respectfully, in the work of you and your team. But so much is happening and showing up in the classroom, in my personal opinion, that it's hit a different level in terms of the care for mental health and what we're seeking to provide for our students in terms of mental wellness and creating these inclusive learning environments to be able to help them along their traumas, their journeys, really fighting to overcome these things. And it's just amazing to me, the idea of hope. What first was the seed that was planted to say this all comes down to hope?
Well, when I found out the single consistent predictor of suicide was hopelessness, I broke down hopelessness. I really studied what is hopelessness, and being both emotional despair and motivational helplessness are really the 2 key ingredients of hopelessness. I thought, well, then we need to know how to get to hope. And as hopelessness is often a consequence of oppression or discrimination, it's high in marginalized communities, and it's also learned. And so if we're learning how to be hopeless, we need to learn how to hope. And so that's really what set out on that journey. I think and simplify, like I need simple things to do and in a marketing and kind of strategic and branding way. And so my mission was to create kind of a global brand around how we teach hope, how we measure and teach hope. And that's, the Shine Hope Company. The Shine is mnemonic, which I'll get into for how we teach hope and the skills we teach. But super critical. So to me, it comes down to hope. And as you build your hope, the research is very clear. Hope is a protective factor for anxiety and depression. And the more hopeful you are, the less likely you are to have anxiety and depression. And we were able to prove that hope is teachable. It's a teachable skill.
If I had to, and I know that there's an entire program, there's an entire book. Once again, the name of her book is the biggest little book about hope. If
Yeah.
I were to define hope, if I want to say I want to step at a step one to
Yeah.
understand my own personal journey with hope, what
Yeah.
advice would you give me?
It's a vision for something in your future, something you want in your future, and you've got to fuel that vision with positive feelings. You have to get the feeling better, and then you have to fuel it with inspired actions. So hope is different from a wish. It's not the same as a wish. We often use hope like we use wish, but it's not the same. You have to feel good about it, and you have to actually take action and know how to take action, and sometimes know how to not take action, which can be equally as challenging.
What do you think of some of the misconceptions that people, society as a whole, have about this idea of hope?
Yeah, well, there's a famous book, Hope is Not a Strategy. So that's a business book. So that was a mark against us. Many people think of hope as a wish, but when you actually look at the data around hope and the science of hope and how we're measuring hope, so that, again, there's an 8-question validated scale. For adults, there's a 6-question for children, the Snyder Hope Scale. We share it on our website. Once you measure your hope and you understand what we're talking about with hope, and then you see the outcomes of higher hope, you know that actually hope is a strategy, and it's way more than just a wish. It's, you want something in your future, but you actually have to be able to get there. And so we give you evidence-based kind of approaches for getting out of that helplessness into the inspired actions.
I love it. I love it. Let me ask you this. As we all think about how we go about our days, life, society, the run of the day, do you and your team feel like there's things that perhaps we as a general society in a whole, I mean, this is a broad brush here, but that there's things that we doing that hold us back, that negatively impact our hope, our sense of hope?
Yeah, there's so many. So the E in the shine is eliminating challenges, which are negative thought patterns that get in the way of our ability to hope. And I think this is kind of some of our biggest challenges. We do things like try to control things outside of our control. We have what's called negative bias, which, when you look at the news kind of fuels that and leads us into this kind of persistent, hopeless state. We attach to outcomes, and that can be really hard and drive that helplessness component of hopelessness. Ruminate, we internalize failure. These are things that kind of can lead to that persistent hopelessness that by nature our minds kind of do. And we have to, once we learn that we're doing this and we can actually have skills, thanks to neuroplasticity, we can rewire our brain. We can reapproach how we think about things. So again, it's something that can be taught, but we first have to become aware that we're even doing it, which is why, to me, hope education is so critical. I mean, I'd like it taught like we teach math in the classrooms.
What a thought, right? What a thought. There's so many conversations that are happening right now in education, higher education, thinking about, the things that we've been teaching that aren't necessarily resonating with what our learners need today. What are those life skills? And I think that this is one of those critical life skills. You bring up a great point. We need to teach hope, and let's add some, not only financial literacy, but some wealth understanding to that, how to build wealth. Let's break the poverty with that too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, for sure.
So your own personal journey, you began to talk about what influenced your passions for this work. Was there a pivotal turning point for you that put you on the journey towards discovering hope?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was that 10 years ago. The aha moment was in the suicide prevention talk. I'm thinking an 800 number is not going to save me. Locking up my meds that wouldn't save me. Like if I'm going to want to take my life, it's going to be the way I'm going to do it. To truly prevent something, you have to get to root cause. And the aha moment to me was I thought there would be so many different causes. I thought it would be very complex and confusing. And when I read study after study after study around hopelessness, And then deconstructing hopelessness being, it's emotional despair, so fear, sadness, anger, and then it's a sense of helplessness. When you really think about it, we experience moments of hopelessness all the time throughout our day. Everyone does. This isn't something that you're sick with or there's something wrong with you. It's basically how you manage that moment of hopelessness that matters, that predicts if you're going to turn to violence, if you're going to turn to addiction, if you're going to turn to self-harm. And so to me, understanding that and then thinking, oh my gosh, we can actually teach skills of how to navigate this and how to get to hope. Like there is nothing more important that I can be doing in the world than this. So I kind of abandoned my other company and really set out to focus how you could do this. Now, one of the biggest challenges is we don't pay for prevention. We don't think about prevention. We don't invest in prevention. So it's taken every resource I have and then some to really come up with a strategy for how to kind of monetize in a way that also has great impact and serves humanity, which is, ultimately my mission as well.
I love it. I love it. Let me ask you this. Where has your hope journey taken you? I can only imagine the amount of lives that you have successfully impacted, you and your team. Where does this hope journey take you? But the part two to that is, where do you think that the hope journey is taking you? What's on the horizon?
I know. Well, where has it? I mean, it's taken me, it's tested my own hope as I've gone through this journey again and again. Even as an entrepreneur, we're higher in moments of hopelessness because the more challenges you have in life, basically, the more moments of hopelessness you're going to experience and the more you're going to be tested to navigate that. So it's been very challenging to try to do this work. And a lot of people say, if anything epitomizes hope, it's you, that you're still kind of doing this and on this mission. But it's incredibly rewarding. We just created a program for the VA, which, if we can teach veterans how to hope, we're potentially working on one for jails. We're activating cities now around hope. I just got, a note from a reservation, an American Indian reservation. They're activating the youth there on hope, and it's really been transformative. Done a lot of work in Northern Ireland. And so when you think about some of these really challenging communities, inner city of Chicago, which is where I am and where I grew up, these youth that are surrounded by hopelessness, really, when you look at the environment that they're living in and the violence and thinking about really impacting these communities, being able to touch them, being able to teach them skills. You choose violence. When you're in despair, violence releases endorphins and dopamine. So to your body, it feels good. It feels like a good decision because you're feeling better than being in that state of despair, but it's not healthy for the long term. So teaching kids these skills and taking the shame out of some of the actions they're doing, because they want to feel better. And of course they do. And we've got to provide the opportunities and the spaces for them to feel better and teach them why they're making these unhealthy decisions for themselves. I mean, they're smart decisions. That's just they're not good for them in the long term. Super important to me.
Absolutely. Right now, they're watching this, they're listening to this, and this is resonating with them in a way that they're like, I need to know more. I want to learn more. I want to measure my own hope, sense of hope. What advice do you have for someone that they're really, right now, they're listening to this, they're watching this, they're going through it.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for them right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can go to the shinehopecompany.com and measure your hope and get your hope score. And I always say it's great to do that. Just get your baseline. And it doesn't matter where you are. Like, you don't know what you don't know until you're taught. And again, anyone can learn how to hope. And hope is not easy. It's not an easy journey. But it is a formula, and it's a way to start cultivating and activating hope in your life and learning, just like you go to the gym, to build your muscles. I say build your hope muscles and practice these skills to get better at hope. I'll go through the framework just quick. So SHINE stands for stress skills. So kind of how we identify and manage our stress response, the anger, fear, and sadness. And we do that using stress skills. We teach happiness habits, so how we cultivate those long-term healthy habits that release happy hormones that I kind of say combat those stress hormones. We teach inspired action, so kind of ways to set goals, how to get out of helplessness into action, kind of evidence-based approaches. The N is nourishing network, so how we we kind of create and cultivate those strong networks, and how we get out of negative, like, is our network for us healthy? Are these relationships healthy? Are they serving our mission and purpose? Are they elevating us or taking us down? More doesn't equal better in relationships, and that's something I used to really think. And the E we talked about already, but is eliminating challenges to hope, which are those negative thought patterns. So again, these are things that anyone can learn, that they can practice and they can cultivate, and believing in yourself first and foremost, and believing in your own power and your own power to do this, no matter how dire your circumstances. I mean, I've been in very dire, I've been in recovery 20 years. There are so many times and points in my life that I was like, it's in such a state of hopelessness that I thought it's never gonna get better. And yet I practice these skills and it does get better. You do feel better. So
I love that you actually, that was going to be one of my last questions for you is that as you've been on your own hope journey, what has it taught you the most? But it seems like your own sense of resilience, your own sense of, but I'm also hearing vulnerability and the power that you have found in sharing that with.
Yeah, it's so important that people know where this comes from and how it, and what I've learned and how I've learned it. Seeing my dad struggle was the worst. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, and yet it gave me great insights into kind of what happens. And I believe that, had this happened today, if he were around today, I would know how to support him, and I know how I would kind of cultivate his hope and teach him about hope and how to navigate his own hopelessness. But yes, it has tested my hope, and it has gotten me deeper and deeper into insights around hope as I've been on this journey.
You are doing amazing work. The name of this show is Discovering Your Mission. And I love to ask all of my guests this final question, and I certainly want to give you the opportunity to answer this question. That is what is your own personal mission statement, your own purpose statement, and why? And why does that lead and feed and guide you?
Yeah, it used to be to improve moods, because my other company was the Mood Factory, and that I'll get back to at some point. But now it's really to ensure, my aim is to ensure everyone knows what hopelessness is, to normalize the conversation about it, and then is equipped, and everyone is equipped with skills to get to hope, to find their way back to hope. Because again, it's teachable, and I believe we all have a right to these skills, and it saves lives. And so, I'm on a mission to ensure that happens, that we take hope out of the abstract, and we have concrete things we can do to actually build hope in our lives today. So, no matter where you are on the hope scale, you can teach yourself how to get better, and be in a community that supports that as well.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Kathryn Goetzke, the Chief, I love your title, Chief Hope Officer of the Shine Company, doing amazing work. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to be here.
What an incredible conversation with Kathryn Goetzke. Before we wrap up, let's reflect on 3 key takeaways from today's episode. Number 1, Kathryn talked about hope is a teachable skill. She shared that hopelessness is the single strongest predictor of suicide, yet hope can be learned, practiced, and strengthened like a muscle. Her programs, including Hopeful Minds and Hopeful Cities, are helping individuals, students, and entire communities embrace hope as a strategy for mental wellness. Number 2, Kathryn talked about the power of taking inspired action. She shared that hope isn't just about wishing for a better future, it requires action. And she outlined how hope is built through positive emotions, goal setting, and eliminating the negative thought patterns that hold us back. She encouraged us to measure our hope, take small steps, and build resilience through daily habits. Last but certainly not least, Kathryn talked about how we must invest in prevention. One of Kathryn's biggest insights is that we don't pay enough attention to preventing mental health crises before they happen. Through her work with the Veteran Affairs, the VA, universities, and entire cities, she advocates for a world where hope education is as fundamental as learning math, because knowing how to hope can save lives. Kathryn, thank you for sharing your wisdom, your story, and your unwavering commitment to mental wellness and hope. Your mission is truly making a difference. And to all of you who are watching and listening, I encourage you to continue this journey with us. Subscribe, share this episode with others, and spread hope to those who need it most. And of course, for more inspiration, leadership insights, and impactful conversations, be sure to head over to itsdrmordecai.com. Until next time, stay inspired, stay hopeful, and keep discovering your mission.